just let us know where you're at, and I think copies are being made right now.
On Czajkowski, Office of Legislative Counsel, I have draft 12.2 hot off the presses. I made the changes that we discussed at the end of the day last night. And the new things are in yellow. So I will say that primarily there is new text at the end. At the beginning though, I updated the purpose section, and we should at least review it because this is part of the bill that once it's introduced will not be changed. And we haven't talked about it in a long time, so I, last night, did that. But then at the end of the bill is your new report requirement as well as the appropriation. I added the appropriation because I thought that's where we landed. So, do you want me to start before we get the draft, or do you want to read the draft?
Do we have an estimated time?
Usually it takes in like maybe probably like 9:15.
It's the pleasure of the committee. I think do it on screen, Jim?
It's up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We can have our backup paper
Yeah.
when we get it. That would be me.
Yeah, okay. Any other? Yeah, let's just read it. We can review it again when we get the paper if we need to.
Alright, so on page 1, statement of the purpose. This bill proposes to make revisions to the state land use law known as Act 250, including amending the capability and development plan findings, reorganizing the air and water pollution criteria, amending the transportation, energy, conservation, and public investment criteria, amending the criteria to address ecosystem protection through protecting forest blocks and connecting habitat. The bill would also increase the program's ability to protect ecosystems on ridgelines by reducing the elevation threshold from 2,500 to 2,000 feet. Adding new criteria related to climate adaptation and environmental justice. Requiring that to be used in Act 250, local and regional plans must be approved as consistent with the statutory planning goals. And clarifying that local and regional plan provisions apply to a project if they meet the same standard of specificity applicable to statutes. As part of a balancing of interests to support economic development in compact centers while promoting a rural countryside and protecting important natural resources, exempting designated downtowns and neighborhood development areas from Act 250, and increasing Act 250 jurisdiction at interstate interchanges and over new roads. Because the designation under 24 VSA Chapter 76A would affect jurisdiction, the bill provides for appeal of designation decisions. Clarifying the definition of commercial purpose so that it is not necessary to determine whether monies received are essential to sustain a project. Increasing the per diem rate for district commissioners and the board to $100, and raising the Act 250 permit fees. Yep.
We're not raising the per diem rate board. We're actually proposing to have it paid for.
You are right. Amending the permit process by giving the Natural Resources Board the power to issue major permits, in addition to the NRB's current duties. The board will have 3 full-time members, and major permit applications will be heard by a panel of the board and district commissioners. Appeals of the Act 250 permits would go to the Supreme Court. The Environmental Division of the Superior Court would continue to hear other permit appeals and enforcement. Reaffirming the supervisory authority in environmental matters of the board and district commissioners, in accordance with the original intent of Act 250 as determined by the Supreme Court. Revising and clarifying the statutory authority on the use of permits to demonstrate compliance with criteria. Creating a process that would allow properties to be released from Act 250 jurisdiction. Requiring slate quarries to be added to the Agency of Natural Resources Natural Resource Atlas. Oh, raising the permit fees down there. Raising the permit fees can be taken out. establishing a pre-application process to allow municipal and regional planning commissions to weigh in on a project before the Act 250 permit application is filed, allowing forest-based enterprises to operate outside of permitted hours of operation and to mitigate primary agricultural soils on a 1-to-1 ratio, shifting the burden of persuasion to the applicant under Criterion 8, requiring the Agency of Natural Resources to establish a permit program for the highest priority river corridors.
Question, Ellen, about the interstate language. And it had and over new roads.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
The road rule.
And over. What line is that? Because I'd like to look at it again.
Page 2, line 3.
Page 2.
So in this bullet, I'm talking about the balance you have struck between exempting designated downtowns
Oh yeah.
and raising jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So you're increasing jurisdiction in both interstate interchanges and over new roads.
Good. I somehow mashed that into the interstate.
Yeah, because it's funny because it's interstate interchanges and then over new roads makes you think about going over an interstate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it works.
it does make sense.
Well, I already have to fix 2 typos, so if you would like to change it.
I think that, can you just scroll up to page 1 so you can see the whole thing? Yep. I think it's accurate.
Yeah. As long as you're going to be in there, I wonder if you just put like over certain new roads, and that somehow separates it from the interchanges. And Act 250 isn't going to assume jurisdiction over all new roads. I mean, in this particular road rule case, if they're less than 2,000, it won't.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it might be. This is not the time for nitpicking, Jim.
No,
I apologize.
this is the time for nitpicking because the purpose section will not change.
Yeah.
So this is the only time you can amend it.
So should we put the elevation change in there too?
The elevation change is in there, but it's up higher. It's in the ecosystem protection section.
Oh.
But again, this originally was in sort of bigger chunks, and I last night rearranged it to go sort of sequentially through the bill. So
I think it should end at the end of elevation threshold period, because we don't know what if the Senate has it go lower.
Well, the Senate bill would change.
Oh, they can change things. Who can't change this then? Why do you say this can't be changed?
right, so you can't change the purpose section of the bill, but so the Senate won't be able to change it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, that happens all the time when you amend a bill.
They could change something that you put in
Right,
this
but
top part.
it matters what you want this to say when this goes out to the floor,
No.
or, right, I mean, this, it
So
will,
it's
when,
like a snapshot of what you're gonna find inside. And
Yes.
if they change something, if they don't do the interstate interchanges or something over in the Senate, then what happens to this? Sorry.
so,
It doesn't matter.
It
because
gets
that's their
reconciled
bill.
at some point before it goes into green books.
Okay.
The purpose doesn't go into the.
it doesn't go into the
Okay,
green book,
so,
but, so that's
Right.
right.
All right.
Carrie.
I think when I'm looking at line 20, I think another important policy that we incorporated in this bill is about the working landscape, particularly with respect to the forest products industry. So here we talk about promoting a rural countryside, and working, and I think it may be helpful to describe supporting the working landscape and protecting ...
I think that's fine.
So I have down here on line 9, I reference your changes for the forest-based enterprises, but I can add language there if you want in order to support.
I think it was relevant to the point we are making here in line 20 and 21.
To support the rural landscape.
Yeah.
So maybe just move that bullet. I think the one bullet is pretty, it's got a long sentence in it, and the others are very succinct and clear.
Yeah,
So.
in particular because there were two things we did. One was the mitigation of prime ag soil for the forest products industry, but the other was looking at hours of operation. So I think I agree with you. That one bullet probably helps to summarize that level of that policy change in the bill.
And move it. When you say you agree with me.
About keeping the bullet for line 2021, and I don't know if we need the details under 9 and 10. I thought that's what you were implying or suggesting. Either way, I'm fine, but I would like to see just working landscape on line 21 added. Promoting a rural countryside, comma, supporting a working landscape, comma, and protecting important natural resources.
I'm fine with that. Okay.
Sounds good, but I have a hard time following it without a hard copy. Yes, I don't know your name.
Nirmegh, Nirmegh from Starksboro. I have two things that I'd just like to say here. One, I think the road thing should be a lot less. If you go into the woods and you put a road in 2,000 feet, you're going over waterways, you're going over, you're taking a lot of woods apart. I've worked in the woods all my life, and 2,000 feet is a long way. You can put a lot of development in, and I think it really encourages development in the state.
Yeah. So I really am sympathetic and appreciate it, your perspective.
Right.
We're probably not going to make that change right here, right now, and we're probably not going to take testimony this morning.
Right, and
so.
You're asking, this is the last time you can say something for your bill, and I just want to also say one thing about the logging thing. Part of it is that yes, I've been in the woods. I use my chainsaws constantly, but these big machines that come in and go for hours and hours and hours, even near my house, it doesn't feel good. You know, you hear this tremendous noise constantly, and they go from 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes to 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And it's not necessary.
I am also very sympathetic to that comment.
Yeah.
Very sympathetic, but we're.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
We are where we are, and so
Yep.
I'm just going to say that to the room. Like we are in the last throes. We're not taking testimony today. We're moving the bill out of this committee. It's where it is right now, and that's
Yep.
what we need to do to. There's other eyes that need to look at this bill in the building, and that's our responsibility is to move the bill so that other committees can do their due diligence, and we can try to get something over to the Senate. And that's just part of the legislative process, and it's where we're at today. And we've been doing this every week of this whole session and most weeks of the first half of the last session. And I appreciate that everyone's passionate about this. I know we all are too. So that's the process that we're in.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Will there be other opportunities somewhere down the road as this bill moves along,
Yes.
testimony?
There will, not in our committee, but in other.
In other committees?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The process is really just beginning in a lot of ways, in terms of the whole building. So, that's part of the pressure for us to get it moving. Thank you. Okay, where are we?
So I'm going to add on page 1, protecting working landscape, but was Representative Dillon, were you suggesting that I take out the line on about hours of operation of Primax soils on page 3?
Nope, you can keep that.
Okay.
I mentioned supporting a working landscape.
Supporting.
Thank you.
I'd like to go down to line 11, where it says the board will have 3 full-time members and major permit applications will be heard by a panel of the board and district commissioners. I would like to see that spelled out. How many district commissioners? That's 2 as I understand. And 2 is what we decided. And we're not showing any number at all, so I'm concerned. I want to make sure that 2 is in there. Which would be on line 13.
What is your suggestion?
To insert the actual number beside district commissions.
All right, so I can reframe it to say, I'll break it into 2 sentences. The board will have 3 full-time members. Major permit applications will be heard by a panel of the 3 board members and 2 district commissioners from the district where the project is located.
Much better.
Awesome.
Other thoughts on this? Did you find it under Alex name?
It's not under my name, it's on the website though. It's on today's date.
Yeah, under
Sorry.
your name.
Oh,
It
it's
is
my name.
On our committee page. Yep.
Where else did it be, right?
Okay, what other sections have been changed?
Alright, the next is on, the road rule on page 8. On page 8, I did fix the typos in the interchange area, so it now reads paved surfaces and view sheds, the top of page 8.
Thank you.
Better give you that.
Yep. Oh,
I think the heat. I want want to copies for people who are here.
yeah. Oh,
We got one?
does anyone have a copy?
We don't have one for her.
Jim, do you have a copy?
I've got mine right here.
Okay.
I'm good. Yes, thank you for checking.
All right, so let's look at this. Page 8.
So I on the road rule, it's back close to being what it was from the joint proposal. So I deleted my definition of road. So it now reads, starting on line 8, the construction of a road or roads and any associated driveways to provide access to or within a tract of land of more than 1 acre owned or controlled by a person. For the purposes of determining jurisdiction under this subdivision, any new development or subdivision on a parcel of land that will be provided access by the road and associated driveways is land involved in the construction of the road. Jurisdiction under this subdivision shall not apply unless the length of road and any associated driveways in combination is greater than 2,000 feet. As used in this subdivision, roads shall include any new road or improvement to a Class 4 road by a private person for the purpose of accessing a development or subdivision, including roads that will be transferred to or maintained by a municipality after their construction or improvement. For the purpose of determining the length of any road and associated driveways, the length of all other roads and driveways within the tract of land constructed within any continuous period of 10 years commencing after July 1 shall be included. This subdivision shall not apply to a state or municipal road or a road used exclusively for farming or forestry purposes. The conversion of a road used for farming or forestry purposes that also meets the requirements of this subdivision shall constitute development.
Matt?
Where's this in the old draft? In the previous draft?
On page 7, on 11.1.
The reason I'm asking is this where the utility language?
Yeah, just as I read that, that's not in there.
Good catch. Jim?
Ellen, in 11.1, where was your definition for road?
It was at the end of the section. It was definition 50, so it would have been on page 13,
13?
12 or 13.
Or 13, okay. I'd like to revisit that.
Sorry, where are we?
Well, I'm, so,
You're on page 12.
I'm revisiting just to see what it is we're missing now. At page 12 on 11.1, and Ellen deleted her definition of road. And I'm not, I guess, I got really confused about, yesterday about Class 4 roads, blah, 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 and you've dealt with the Class 4, I understand that part now, but, not defining, so, the road means a shared right-of-way serving 2 or more lots that vehicles can use, and any new road or improvement to a Class 4 road by a private person for the purpose of assessing a parcel, including roads that will be transferred to. So you've dealt with the including roads will be transferred from agriculture or forestry in what you've done here. But the rest of the definition is gone.
No,
No?
no.
Because we need to, people will say, what's a road?
Well, so the conversation that you did have yesterday was that you wanted to delete the definition of road and go
Really?
back to the joint proposals language.
Ah.
And so I went back to the joint proposals language with the addition of the language that the joint proposers last night worked out on farming, used exclusively for farming or forestry purposes.
Well, I'm further exhibiting my confusion over that section of yesterday.
I do admit that in transferring, I lost the utility corridors.
Yeah,
But
yeah, committee, historically, this building has argued what a road is. And in what application, we round and round and round about that in shorelines and just about every other application where the road word came up. And I dropped the ball yesterday not understanding we asked you not to have that definition, or a definition, and I think we're unwise not to include what a road is. In terms of this section, a road means, and I think,
So Jim, I have a question on line 15. It's ends up kind of capturing the definition, I think.
line 15 in what we're doing.
I'm looking at draft 12.2, page 8.
As used in the subdivision.
Yeah.
Well, not really though.
Okay.
I mean,
Mhm.
so I've had this concern for a while. I don't think you actually defined what a road is. You say a few things that it isn't. You say a few things that it is. But yeah, I am also not sure that the definition is clear, which is why I attempted to add a definition in yesterday's draft.
Well,
Yeah, thank you. How about a pent road or a road that's gated? That fall into this general category?
If it's more than 2,000 feet and owned or controlled by a person,
It's not shared, that's my point. Shared right of way?
so can you, so,
if it becomes a driveway, I would think it would come under this.
so your draft 12.2 does not include the phrase shared right of way.
But it's your understanding by what you've written in the latest draft that the road that's gated or is a pent road,
I don't know what the,
gated road.
if it meets the other qualifications under this, yes. There's,
Carrie and then Jim, unless, but are you finished?
Yeah.
It was a marathon day yesterday, so I appreciate all your work here. I had, I guess, assumed that we were going to keep the definition, but just better define what we mean by a road exclusively used by farm and forest operations. But be that as it may, my one question is in regards to our statement that it shall not apply to state or municipal roads, when a class 4 road is a municipal road, so, I don't know if we need to qualify that. By saying, you could even say, shall not apply to state or class 1, 2, or 3 municipal roads.
well, the reference to class 4 is improvements by a private person.
Okay, if you,
I don't know.
or say, except for the, reference above to class 4 roads. I just recognize the inconsistency there, so.
Alrighty then. Ellen, back on the definition of roads, I think the chair has a good point. You and I are concerned about maybe a definition, and I think I heard that from my seatmate here. But I'm just wondering if, with what you've written on line 15 and 16 here regarding roads, as used in this subdivision, roads, you say shall include any new. Would it be stronger if you just say as used in this subdivision, roads mean? And that we're just talking about what a road means in this subdivision. Or
So that would be a different direction to go. I mean, we could spend time trying to reframe this section if you prefer.
I don't want to reframe it particularly.
And I guess I thought shall include was sort of a legal term for means.
It's an open list. So, when you use means, you're defining something within parameters. Include is for including but not limited to. So they're not the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I'm just gonna say, with my floor ears on, we need a definition of road to be put in this bill somewhere. And I'm thinking the one you did for us the other day, is perfect. If you put a period after parcel on line 19 of 11.1, you've got the other language in here about municipalities. I know, even with a definition, we're gonna hear, what's a road? And then the reporter will have to say, well, let's go to the definition section. A road is. And, I mean, I've just heard that so many times.
Right, but we also haven't spent time discussing it. I pulled that definition, I sort of just made up that definition. Road is defined in different places in different ways in different places,
Mhm.
and there's also case law, and so I haven't done a deep dive into the case law on the prior road rule, which did have specific definitions used, so, I don't know if this is how you wanted to define road. Is it a shared right of way? Yesterday we did talk briefly about how many parcels it serves to be defined as a road. Does it need to be for vehicle use? Does it need to be paved? Does it need to be of a certain
Right. These are all questions we'll hear on the floor. Thank you for reinforcing this idea. And the reason there are so many definitions for roads is not unlike why there's so many definitions for agriculture. They just keep getting made to fit a specific situation. And I think what you wrote fits this specific situation.
The one, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wondering about 2 or more lots is different from the one in 12.2. Substantively. So, Jim, are you suggesting that we should not do this in this iteration of the bill?
I'm suggesting that 12.1 should have a definition of road as it serves the purpose of this legislation. Which really means the next iteration will be whatever it is, 12.2, or the next iteration should have a definition of road, and because this one does not.
I guess though we didn't agree on the definition yesterday, so,
Well, we didn't because because why? I was the confused one yesterday, but because we needed new language and got it from the deputy commissioner, and that's been worked into this, we can move on. I'll just raise a flag.
no, I think your flag is
Yeah.
well taken, and I
Yeah.
think I just am asking this
Yeah.
committee to consider if we're ready to do this change right now.
Well, if you're asking committee, I'm on the far end of the table. We're ready to do it now, or we aren't doing it, because we're moving on. That'd be my opinion.
That's my point. Lee?
I think it's pretty basic, and we should define what a road is, so that it's clear.
Gary?
And we're not that far from draft 11.1. We did get some clarifying language that simplified the exclusion of roads used exclusively for farming and forestry purposes. So I think revisiting that and putting that back in may make sense and serve our purposes in this context. I support that.
And the chair pointed out 11.1 talks about 2 or more lots. And 12 point does not, and boy, I favor the change, just striking 2 or more, because this 2,000 foot road could serve 1 lot by a person who bought the whole darn thing and wanted to put a McMansion at the top of Mount Crumpet. And be that the case, it hasn't been subdivided into lots. And in my town, doesn't even need to go in front of the DRB, it's just the application to build a house. And so I would definitely, after having said I like this definition, I was on the query of the chair, 2 or more lots needs to get out of there.
So shared right of way serving 2 or more lots. To Paul's point.
Well, I think I understood your point, meaning maybe we didn't want to have 2 more lots.
Well, and to your point, it can serve one house that's not shared.
Right,
So
yeah, right.
not following
That makes sense.
this. What makes sense? Can you make a suggestion?
Just dropping that language.
And read what it would say.
It could just be 1 or more lots.
Road means, I need
A
to understand
right-of-way.
what's being suggested.
Serving 1 or more lots.
Doesn't a right of way imply other people?
Yeah, I thought that.
I can think of examples in my own district where it's one long road and driveway that's serving one
And
house.
that's, I mean, that's what we're trying to
So
address here.
that's not a right of way.
And that's not a right
That's
of way,
just
it's a driveway.
It's a clearing,
That's-
it's a clearing meant for things to get on and through too.
I mean, I'm not sure the definition is helping us.
A road means access that vehicles can use and any new road improvement to by a private person. Access gets away from the concern, rightfully so, about right of way. There will be a right of way for the person's power line that goes up to that house. So there will be a right of way, but that's not part of the road, that's just the right of way.
Access path.
Pardon me?
Access path. Access is a.
Access, in this case, is an, hold on, I'm getting out of my league, I'm gonna go into grammar.
It's a way to access something. Development. A house is development. It's a house
It's an
development.
access serving,
A point of access?
Well, I have other questions, but I guess maybe we're still, others, trying to come up with a definition.
You have other questions on this, so.
Yeah, so,
Go ahead.
well, I think if you go to page 9 and start with line 3, where it says, the conversion of a road used for farming or forestry purposes, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Line 1, this subdivision shall not apply to a state municipal road or roads used exclusively for farming or forestry purposes. And you know, there's a lot of roads in my part of the country where, yes, they're created for forestry purposes, but they're used for other reasons. There are people who drive them just because they like to drive through the woods. There's people who do things on them. Sometimes they make it. Then sometimes someone makes a, you know, maybe a logging contractor goes in and makes a spur because he wants to reach another part of the woods. So I'm just, you know, the exclusiveness of it kind of suggests that What would you do, post the roads when they're not being used for forestry or farming? You know, how would, what's to say? I mean, if they're not posted, a lot of people are gonna use them for all hunting, going on a road to hunt, fishing. I don't know, I don't like the whole idea of it being exclusive.
So you wanna strike exclusive?
Yes,
Your way, horses.
yeah, horses are another use of road.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to capture a road that's being converted for development, so you could strike exclusively.
You could say largely.
Primarily.
What's that?
I can move it
Primary uses for logging, so.
Yeah, primarily, just to emphasize the intent of that road.
Jim, do you have a suggestion for?
I do, and part of it is to, when Ellen leaves, to really do it and incorporate some of the thinking she's heard here. The suggestion is we do need a road definition. I have a specific improvement, I think. Road means an improved access that vehicles can use and any new road, ending with a period after parcel.
So you want it to only apply to an improved surface?
That's why she's an attorney.
So.
Well,
Any new or-
it's
I was
improved
thinking
over
about
the logging road. I mean, it's not a path through the woods for your four-wheeler to get up to your McMansion.
Could you read it one more time?
Yeah, say, and a little louder.
A road means an improved access that vehicles can use and any new road improvements to a class 4 road by a private person for the purpose of accessing a parcel.
If that's a definition, you're using the word road within the definition of road.
And access to describe access.
I'm not.
I'm gonna make a suggestion that we move on and cogitate on this one a little bit.
What was wrong with right away?
Page 16.
Oh,
I added the language yesterday under the personnel section. To read, the board shall ensure that district commissions and district coordinators have the resources necessary to perform their duties, including access to legal resources and training.
Weren't there changes to like the, oh no, maybe because we went back to 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
It's not highlighted? Okay, thank you. Oh, it's over here.
That captures.
Thank you. Looks good.
Right?
I did, on the next page, I did make the change with the 4 years and up to 2 alternates.
and I thought that I said some bigger districts might need more alternates.
I wrote down though that you wanted only up to 2 though.
I thought it was, I had a similar question, but they can share, you know,
Oh, rotating.
so, right, and it's just because there's 2 doesn't mean someone can come up from a different district or something, you know, or down, wherever you want to stay.
Couldn't it be at least 2?
Not less than.
So you have 2 in most places, and it could be 3 in another, or 4 in another, at least. don't
fine.
remember why that's a problem.
I think that we've heard that it's not necessarily been happening and that it looks like there's vacancies, because, well, there are vacancies for whatever all the reasons are. And when a commission needs other members, they go to another district to get them.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Line 18, we have a may appoint up to accept. Intentional.
I guess because they're alternates, maybe if we,
If we're trying to establish a minimum appointment.
Right.
Jim,
Response, I'm often an advocate for shall over may. In this case, and we've heard that it's difficult to find commission members who are willing to put in the effort, and commissioners. And if the governor is unable to find commissioners and up to 2 alternates, the word shall becomes an issue. We won't throw the governor in jail for not doing it, even though we had shall, but I think this is a distinction without a difference here.
yeah, so we gotta, so
Okay.
what's your proposal? Oh, Carrie?
No, that's fine, I just flagged it. My seatmate here has whipped me into questioning every time we use may, so I'm fine, we can move on.
All right, I think we can leave it. Just move on.
Good job.
Page 19. I added the language that the board may publish annotations and indices of its decisions and the decisions of the Environmental Division and the Supreme Court. And then on page 20, the Natural Resources Board may hear petitions for revocation of land use permits under this chapter. Page 21, I changed from district coordinators to district commissions. On line 10, the board may delegate to district commissioners authority, or to district commissions authority. And then we can skip all the way to 55. I updated the language for the forest-based enterprises permit conditions based on the suggestions from the Forest Parks and Rec. So it matches what Deputy Commissioner suggested yesterday.
Do you wanna add something?
Madam Chair, please. Sam Lincoln, Deputy Commissioner, Forest Parks and Recreation. It doesn't match what I sent.
It doesn't. Oh.
No,
What?
it's a little broader, and if what best way can I get the information to you all?
Tell us why.
What?
What still says permitted hours of operation on line 1, and it was going to be converted to regular.
We heard just the opposite.
We heard that.
The rest of the sentences is where we wanted permitted. That one was regular. That one is when the chair referenced yesterday made it a circular reference.
And then the one below was permitted.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
So it's just the one in line 1?
just that one in line 1.
Okay.
And then the lines starting on line 3, it was going to be outside deliveries of forest products from forestry operations. It's more than one forestry operation.
Oh.
Operations plural.
and deleting the word "the" before forestry operation.
We're on line 2, page 55.
And on line 3, it's to the enterprise, not to and from. What I'm suggesting narrows that. It's not and from.
So,
He wants to delete
can you
the
say
word
that
from.
again? To, you want me to delete and from?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then here and from.
So how would it read, excuse me?
These permits shall allow for deliveries of forest products from forestry operations to the enterprise outside of permitted hours of operation.
Thank you.
And on line 1, putting regular back in.
Yes.
Instead.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you for accommodating us.
Yes.
All right. Next.
We're good with line 14, permitted hours on that page? We didn't go there yet, really.
It's good.
Yeah,
That's what we talked about
that's what
last
he wanted.
Well, I'm just checking, because we didn't understand what he wanted yesterday.
On page 72, in chapter 220, I struck the reference to consolidated, so now that chapter is called environmental appeals. And then the really new language is on page 92. Section 18, Natural Resources Board Permit Report. I didn't know what we wanted to call this report. On or before December 15th, 2024, and we also didn't decide on a date, but I can. The Natural Resources Board shall submit a report to the House Committee on Natural Resources, Fish and Wildlife, and the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Energy, with its assessment of how well the new permitting process established in this act is working and any recommended changes. The report shall include the number of permits issued by the board and district commissions, the number of properties that have been released from Act 250 jurisdiction, and the number of pre-application meetings held pursuant to 6084A. We didn't discuss what else should be in the report.
Carrie.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I did mention it would be important for us to have the Natural Resources Board track party status. How many people are requesting party status, and the denial rates and justification for that, and include that in their report to ensure that we are still upholding standing. That provides for citizen input, citizen participation.
You want that audit report?
Yep.
I like it.
I like it. Anything else we want to hear back from specifically on this new board? All right, thanks for doing that. Recreation.
So section 19, Natural Resources Board positions, appropriation. The following new positions are created at the Natural Resources Board for the purposes of carrying out this act. 1 staff attorney 1 staff attorney 2 Natural Resources Board members, and 1 legal technician. The sum of $640,687 is appropriated to the Natural Resources Board from the general fund in fiscal year 2021 for the positions established in subsection A of this section and for additional operating costs required to implement the permitting process established in this act.
We were gonna pay for this with fees.
I did not know how much you wanted the appropriation to be, so the only number I had was the number from the NRB, so do you, whatever you'd like it to be, I don't know.
Where do the fees for the permits, they go into the general fund and then they get reappropriated back out?
No, they go to a special activity
Okay.
fund.
I would, to save, the wrath of the appropriations committee, I think we should go the year out.
So, I don't think the NRB is here.
Yep.
Yeah, so they are, okay, hi, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Do you wanna respond to, I thought the conversation yesterday was about they don't currently have the fees to, the funds to hire the new positions. Then the increased fee would then sustain the operation, but I don't know
Oh, I see what you're saying.
without,
Okay.
so, but, I don't know.
Well,
We don't have.
we have an increase in the fees and this appropriation. And is there anything that reflects what you just said of that shifting? I mean,
So it's a one-time appropriation,
okay,
so
2021.
I didn't know what number to pick. So potentially you just need a one-time appropriation to hire the staff, and then the increase in fee will then fund the staff after the fees have been collected. I don't know.
So when Appropriations and Ways and Means review this, they will make appropriate changes. It's their area of jurisdiction. Anyway,
I have a question here. So, we've got a 5-member board now sitting on a major permit. The 3 who are the so-called professionals gonna be paid more than the other
catch
2
up?
commissioners? Are the 2 commissioners gonna be paid less doing the same work as the professional guys?
Yes, I have not,
I was gonna ask that too. Is that in here?
no.
Okay. That needs
So
to
I
be-
don't know how to, so right now, district commissioners are paid per diem, so,
I think it's gonna be when they're sitting with the board, they need to get paid or one of the lawyers in the room can help us find the right word, but a proportionate amount, whatever, the same amount as
I like parity.
what the the paid board members get per day.
That's kind of like professional women's soccer.
So I thought that there was a place that it could be addressed. There was a minor change around the board pay. I thought that I was gonna ask if it got to this.
I think $100.
$100, that's when you're being a district commissioner.
Yeah.
And
And I mentioned, I mentioned the NRB could extract out the benefits from that estimate of the cost and determine a per hour rate increase the per diem to meet that rate.
Well, I think it's the intention of raising their rate when they're serving as a board member.
Exactly, and so I think in that case, you could get to that number too, and the compensation would still be a per diem, but based on that new rate. But I think the information we received from the NRB had already incorporated, I think, the benefits associated with those positions, so, as full employees, and since they wouldn't be employees, it would be a per diem. But you can extract out that benefit package to determine that hourly rate and do it that way.
Trust, Ellen, you'll find the right place to insert this.
Yep, it'll just read under, I'll amend section 6028 for compensation and add something along the lines of when a district commissioner is participating in the major permit application process, they shall receive pay. I don't know what page it's on off the top of my head.
Oh, compensation, page 21.
You could say pay that demonstrates parity with board member, current board members. Compensation that reflects parity, something like that, and then you leave it like to.
Commensurate compensation?
Yeah.
And we do have $100 in here.
Yeah.
Good, I misunderstood that this morning.
May I ask another question separate? Are we finished with this?
Can you give me like 30 seconds?
Yep. We'll give you all the time in the world.
Well, yeah, like last night.
My one question, I don't mean to go backwards, but I think it's a quick question. Page 88 on the new draft, lines 14 through 16. This is in regards to the list we had relating. I'm looking at lines 14 through 16. And you may call, we talked about this draft report and the components of it. And my question was whether we had already determined a process by which designations can be appealed.
Yes.
I know we did, we pulled out one section.
Yes, my notes last night on this section were very confusing. I wrote
Right.
take it out and leave it in next to it, so I don't, so I left it in.
Okay. I flagged that because I thought we had decided that.
I was not sure what you decided.
I think it was that?
Well, I know we pulled out regional plan approval because we know the board approves those regional plans. That was taken out. And I just highlighted, did we decide on this line item? And I, for some reason, when I was looking through this last night, I recalled thinking that we had established.
Do you know what page that's on in the 11 draft?
Yes, it's page 90, 17 through 19, lines 17 through 19. Just trying to remember.
I did not hear a clear decision and so I left it, and I don't know if there was a clear decision.
Yeah, we took out 5, it's number 6 that I was questioning is, because I remember seeing the designation of growth centers.
Is this study earlier on in the side-by-side?
So I don't know, it's,
Just because I think that might be where my notes are, but, so designations currently go to the downtown board.
yep, the state board determines whether an area should be designated.
And, which one did we take out?
We took out 5.
I know, but I gotta figure. How regional plans are, okay. So right now, growth centers and new town centers are not appealable. Seems like we wanna leave this in.
Yep, I was just, that was my question, I just didn't know if we had already had determined, and I can't find a record of it.
So we wanna leave it in, this is
Yep.
part of the study.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
clarifying,
Yeah.
hoping that your all's memory was better than mine.
And not over here. Better than yours.
Jim?
New topic, first of all, and we're going way back to the end of the bill, but that's okay. $640,000, 687. That figure, that was provided by the NRB to you.
Yes.
Good, so for the record, that's where it came from. Next question, fees. Where are we with fees? What did, in our new bill? Do we have a section for fees?
Yes.
And-
It did not change overnight because I didn't receive any.
Okay,
feedback.
so, okay, alrighty, well, that's where I was going, because we didn't talk about it this morning.
Yep.
There was concern that the $3 was way too much, and I'm glad we didn't come to a resolution with it, and it's time to move on, good.
Well, I do have concerns that it is too much.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how, to share those with Ways and Means other than when we go tell them. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that there needs to be a split here with general fund and fees increasing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't
Yeah.
think that the fees should carry all of these changes in and of themselves, so.
Right, we haven't gotten testimony of what it would take to operate it, other than $640,000, $640,687. I mean, if that's what it takes to stand it up, I'm saying that's what it takes to run it every year. I mean, they're not gonna be
Correct.
building a new building, so,
But the question is, how much of that comes from increasing fees versus general fund?
right.
Because right now, the board gets about $500,000 in the general fund.
So, yeah,
And I think, maybe it's you, Jim, that I asked this question to, because you've been around this block more often than I have, but when we do raise fees and we relate to our Ways and Means Committee, I mean, I don't know how that dialogue happens, or,
yeah. How does this, forget the cliche, Jim, we do what we do and they do what they wanna do with it, is the most polite way to say it, and
so they're gonna look at this.
totally,
They'll dive into it and
Yeah.
they'll understand it, more than we will.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and we could cut it to $3 instead of $6 if we're concerned that this is raising way too much money.
Yes, I suspect they will ask for assistance from JFO on this.
Yes.
Yeah, and also some real testimony from NRB about, which we haven't really gotten
Yeah,
on
and I
this
think
topic.
this is
Let's
part of
just
why
let
we
them
need
do
to
it.
move the bill out, is
Yeah.
so that they have their time to do
Yeah.
this work. Carrie?
And I don't mean to go back to number 5 here, but I am going back to number 5. Changing the word whether to how
How.
designations of growth centers and new town centers should be appealable and which tribunal should hear the appeal.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, I agree.
Good catch.
Alright, we still have roads outstanding.
And the effective dates.
Oh, let's do the effective date.
I mean, I just, the chair asked me to make everything effective on passage, at our sort of conclusion last night, so that's how it is reframed now, with the exception that authority to make appointments, shall be made on or before December 15, 2020, and then the thing about interstate interchanges, and then, existing board member terms, and then the rulemaking. And there is a typo, there are 2 typos, so I will fix them.
Well, I thank you for doing this. Does this take into account the transition to the new board? So that, I kind of wanted it to do this. I mean, there are changes to the criteria and the findings and all the things that were in our committee's underlying bill that I know can take effect on passage. I'm not sure changes to criterion 8 without the rulemaking can take effect on passage, so I don't think it's, I think it has to be something more like a hybrid of the effective dates. And, does that make sense?
So, pull out criterion 8. Is there any, what else?
Well, I'd have to go through line by line. I thought that we could get, that needs to get done. We need to go through and just say in fact, Carrie made a summary that might help us do that. But I mean, some things are just ready to go now and are upon passage, and then other things we're transitioning in, and it's not an all or nothing deal. And I just wanted to make, it seemed like yesterday's draft was sort of all of the things in the joint proposal, and I think we could get assistance to do this offline and to make these changes. It's too detailed to do it in this particular setting, so after we recess, we'll sit down with and look through it. Jim?
In an environment that has more oxygen and less carbon dioxide, I'm getting a headache similar to when I'm troweling concrete with a power troweler in the cellar.
Well, I can tell you what the CO2 level.
Anybody's done that know what I'm talking about.
It's not good.
But at any rate,
It makes you feel calm.
Well, it's 1307, but yesterday it got up to almost 1600, so you know.
yeah,
It's not great, you're right.
yeah.
Carrie?
Aha! I guess in my wee hours I had overlooked it, but I think we handled, I'm still stuck on this. I have on the old draft 11.1, we allow appeals on designations to the Natural Resources Board on page 70. So, I thought I had seen that somewhere.
I thought that was for the downtowns and the neighborhood development areas.
No, it's for all of them.
just those 2.
Oh, it's for all of them.
So maybe we've already addressed this question, number 5.
Yeah, maybe we have, you're
I
right.
think we have.
Yeah.
Okay. We will take that out of the study. Got that on?
Mhm.
And Jim, we need to go back to well, and committee, I need you all to put your minds into this road situation.
One place you might look for a road definition is in the shorelands bill. We do have Michelle in here, she's shaking her head. No, I don't wanna get into this, Jim.
Title 19 might have some.
I think writing by consensus would be a mistake in an auction deprived environment, and I think Ellen can come up with something. Be my
Evan.
guess.
As the definition of road becomes developed and incorporated, I just wanted to point out that this language starting on line 8 of the latest draft.
What page?
It's page 8.
Oh, page 8, I said line 8.
Page 8, line 8.
Oh.
Oh, wow, both of those.
That is in the definition section of the statute. So instead of having 2 definitions in the same section that establish this new road rule, does it make sense just to define road and set out the road rule in one place so that everyone's just looking at one section? And the board had previously identified some concerns with the phrase development or subdivision on line 17. We still have those same concerns, so I just wanted to reiterate that.
So, to your first point, does this current draft do what you're saying with, it's all in one place?
Right now, yeah, there's just this one section that deals with the road rule. But if there's gonna be a new definition of road, I'm just saying instead of having now like 2, you look at in the definition section for the road rule, and then you look at another definition in the definition section for what a road means, just put it in the same section so that it's easier to navigate for people.
I'm sorry, I'm not following. Is there a definition right now for road?
In the latest version, no, there is not. But the road rule that you're creating appears in the definition section of Act 250 because it's a form of development. It's in the definition of development.
Right, it's a definition, I see. Thank you. So you're saying just put it right here?
Just put it right in there. That way someone doesn't have to read 2 definitions just to figure out if their road or driveway is jurisdictional.
And so, remind me your concern with any new development or subdivision?
So line 17 refers to new roads or improvements to class 4 roads that are built for the purpose of accessing a development or subdivision. Well, both development and subdivision are statutorily defined terms that trigger jurisdiction. So what you're saying is a road that leads to something that has already triggered jurisdiction is going to trigger jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah. It's specific to this section.
Exactly. And I would also caution in the definition of road from the previous version of the bill referred to a driveway or road that serves 2 or more lots. I would caution against that because someone who wants to avoid jurisdiction will just build 2 2,001-foot roads leading to 2 different lots to avoid jurisdiction, and the incursions into the forest block will just be even greater.
Got that?
That doesn't help Ellen. We need to provide guidance to Ellen if we can. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. Get some oxygen.